Oh man, it's the podcast about exploring abandoned places. Let's get into it. This is No Tracers. Step into the world of decay, abandonment, and chaos. The story of an urban explorer starts here, at the beginning. Welcome to the podcast you've been looking for all along. This is No Tracers. Here, we take only photos. We leave only footprints. And remember, leave no trace. What's going on, guys? My name is Kay, just the letter K, and I am your host here on the podcast. This is No Tracers. It's a show all about exploring abandoned places, the thing we all love to do dearly. Thank you for tuning into this episode of No Tracers. If you don't know who I am, if you've never heard my voice before, well, I am Kay. I'm known as No Tracers, no.tracers on Instagram. That's where you can find me if you're interested in checking out some of my photography or video work. I post a lot of reels because I am a videographer, so I like to put the reels on the page. But this episode is exciting. I am speaking with Morgannll. If you don't know who she is, go check her out on Instagram. She is a super cool explorer from the Pennsylvania area, and we are going to be diving into her love of lovers resorts, amongst other types of abandoned places that she's explored since about 2015. She's got a couple crazy close call stories, and I'm excited for you guys to hear them. Before we get into the episode, there's a few things I got to mention to you. First of all, if you're new to the podcast and you like the show, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. I noticed that like 87% of the people that listen to this show are not subscribed, which is like devastating to me. So if you like the show, please subscribe. Episodes come out every single Friday. You'll get notified when they come out. It would mean a lot to me. It helps the podcast grow in the society and culture section of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you do want to support the podcast, please subscribe. If you are a veteran listener, please leave a rating and feedback on the show. It helps us grow, and it helps us with the ratings. It helps us get new listeners just like you. And it would mean a lot to me if you supported the podcast in those various ways. If you guys are looking for urban exploring gear, I am going to be updating my gear list for you. So be sure to check out notracers.com. I have a gear list up there currently. You can also check the link in the description to my beacons.ai link. The top link on there is actually an Urbex gear list. It will take you straight to the blog post where I talk about the gear that I use. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out. Otherwise, if you want to support the podcast in other ways, you can pick up one of my photography books. You can do a lot of different things, photo prints. I have merchandise. I have all kinds of stuff for you guys on notracers.com. Go check out the site. Have a look-see, and if you like anything, pick something up. Lastly, I got to thank our partner, Liquid Death Mountain Water. If you've never heard of Liquid Death, well, it is canned water. They have still, sparkling, and flavored water. Water's good for you. Drink more of it, guys. I actually need to drink more water as well. So my New Year's resolution is going to be drink more freaking water. If you want to get a discount on a case of Liquid Death Mountain Water, go to liquiddeath.com and use promo code just the letter K. You'll get 10% off your order. And yeah, you can drink more water with me. Let's do that this next year. Appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode with Morgannll. Let's get into it. Morgan, please introduce yourself and how long you've been exploring to the No Tracers audience.
Hi, everybody. My name's Morgan, known on Instagram as Morgannll. I've been exploring abandoned places since approximately around like high school era. I'd say end of high school, early college, so 2015, 2016. I started off, I'm from PA. I'm on the outskirts of Philadelphia, which is a major city in Pennsylvania, as most of you probably all know. I started exploring in 2015 when I found out about all these amazing like northern lovers resorts. And I was just taken aback. My mom actually introduced me to exploring. She never really did any like illegal exploring herself. she's tried and she's dabbled here and there, but she mostly does kind of like tours. But all of the stuff that I do, she kind of built me up to kind of know to get into it all. And so she kind of pointed me in the direction of these lovers resorts up in the Poconos, and I was probably maybe like 17 at the time. And I took a couple of my friends up. We all had no idea what we were doing or what we were getting into. And I just remember pulling the car off to the side of the road when we arrived at this one resort. It's since burnt down, and it's barely there. Maybe like one building is left, sadly. But oh man, I was just taken aback by it. And, I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know all these rules, like where to park the car, like that you have to like walk, you have to be like kind of like suspicious in a way. And I had no idea going into this any of that. So we parked the car in the very front of this building. And honestly, we got pretty lucky because we spent hours there. We spent an entire day there. And it was like middle of summer. It was July. I was just drenched in sweat. My friends were all sweaty, and we had never done anything like this before. And I just fell in love with it. Like right off the bat, I wanted more. I was craving more. So I started hitting spot after spot up in northern PA. And they were all of them were like lovers resorts. And I just fell in love with the hobby after that. It's just been great ever since. I just loved northern Pennsylvania. And over the years, I ended up um, going to school after high school, going to college, and I kind of dropped off. I would go exploring every now and again, and I wouldn't really shoot anything, and not that I even shot anything back in the days when I did the lovers resorts either. I took a picture here, a picture there. All came out pretty blurry. I have very few pictures from that era of my life, and honestly, very few pictures from 2015 up until I discovered the Instagram aspect of things, which was around, I'd say, like 2019. My page, the Morgannll NLL page that I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, started when I was in actually, I'd say, middle school. I'd say it was like when Instagram first came out, I got that Instagram, and fortunate for me, I haven't had any issues with hackers or anything like that. I never lost the page. So I actually ended up archiving all of my personal, most of my personal stuff from over the years, and kind of making it mostly primarily like a abandoned page. But that didn't start until around like 2019, even I'd say 2020. I didn't get a camera until like 2020, and even till this day, I have no idea how to use the thing. Um, no idea.
Wow.
Um,
I love that you have this like passion for exploring more so than like the photography, because some people are photographers first and then they like get into the hobby, but I love that you're like a I want to say like a homegrown explorer. Like your mom got you into it and then you fell in love with it further, and you weren't it sounds like you weren't necessarily in it for like the growing an Instagram or like the clout aspect of it, like so many newer explorers are. And I think that's super cool.
oh yeah, for sure. Thank you. I would say so myself. I actually went out last weekend with a couple friends, and one of my friends showed me. He's a Baltimore explorer. He showed me a really really cool spot, and my camera wasn't like the lighting was just bad. I didn't bring my tripod, which I'm very notorious for doing. So it was just the sun was setting, it was getting dark, and I got back home and I looked at my shots. I was like, damn, when's the next time I can even go to this place to like even get like a cool shot? because they all came out so blurry, so dark.
Mm.
But I just had a better time, honestly, just meeting that Baltimore friend and spending time with my friends than I did worrying about getting the right shot, even though I was pretty disappointed when I got home for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
it's crazy. Like I just did a explore in Alabama. I drove like 12 hours in a day. You know, I drove 5 hours down. We drove around for like 2 3 hours until the sunset, and then drove 5 hours back to Nashville. And we got into one location. We were exploring all
oh,
day, and we
wow.
only got into one location. And I was like, you know, I could have been like pissed about it, but like
Mhm.
we had such a good time. Like the conversations were amazing, just the camaraderie was amazing, and being around other explorers is so fulfilling, and it like fills me up, you know. So it's like it's not even always about getting those photos, getting the like best, you know, captures or whatever. It's more about the community aspect of it, and I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have two stories that kind of tie in with what we're talking about
Okay.
here. The first one being, I want to shout out my friend Slipknot lover, Dell. Her and I have had explorers with the Is, my friend Matt, and her Dell's fiance Drew. And we drove up to New York. It's about like 3 hours, and we aimed to hit a spot or two, and we ended up with like nothing. We didn't hit anything that day, but I think that just that conversation aspect, as you were saying, just talking to them for hours upon hours, like a whole day in the car, and like really getting to know them and just like chat, it was just like a perfect memory regardless of if we hit anything. And then the other story is, I'm going to shout out exploring with Tyler. He actually, the first time him and I hung out, we went to it's a famous mansion in the Philly area, and we went and we pre-dawned it. First time meeting Tyler, and I was so flustered because my camera wasn't working. I had an older camera and it wasn't working, and I was like, this is a spot I've been trying to hit since years, like since 2015, like years and years since I knew about it. It's a spot my mom actually really was obsessed with, and one day I would take her if the opportunity ever came, but I don't know about that right now. But yeah, so we got in there, and I the camera wasn't working. I didn't have a tripod. So Tyler actually let me use his camera, but I don't think I had we either of us had a tripod. I'm not sure at the time. I just remember I had no access to a tripod. My camera wasn't working. I shot it on a camera I was unfamiliar with, and you should have seen me. It's a funny memory at this point. Like my shots, some of them are usable, some of them are blurry. I mean, hell. All of them are blurry, probably. In all honesty, that's kind of my notorious thing, the blurry shots. But we uh we were trying to figure out every way we could shoot this place. We're balancing the camera on the light post. We're doing it on the table, on the ground, like on the railing, like anything we could put the camera down on that it was still and could maybe take a picture. We were trying that, and I think that was just probably one of the goofiest things I've ever done to get a picture, and I continue doing that to this day because I don't bring my tripod ever. Like if you ask anybody, they'll know that I just don't want to bring it. I just think it's just as rewarding as it is for the shots. I like still feel like there's that aspect of me, as we said, that like doesn't really care that much about the shots for the most
Yeah.
part, and part of me that does, but I'd rather just not have the extra luggage when going to certain places, because if you have to run or you have to climb, take it's like, oh, here, let me take my camera off the tripod, or let me like put away the tripod, or let me have this extra huge bulky thing in my arm. And I'd rather just not deal with that and just kind of have, like, it's already pretty stressful
Yeah.
to a degree exploring, and then just having an added weight on your shoulders. Maybe I'll get a mini one, who knows, maybe I'll never use it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the tripod thing, like, you know, I had one with me this weekend and we had to go through like the forest. Like we had to go through like shrubbery, like vines and thorns and like all this shit. And I was the only one with a backpack. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, why am I carrying all this shit? And we didn't even get into the place. Like we get up on the porch of the place and the neighbors like across the way heard us and they were like, y'all better get out of that house. We were like, fuck.
Oh, that's the
So we had to
worst.
bail. But like, you're right. Like the extra luggage, like, hold on, please don't chase me yet. I have to take my camera off the tripod and put it in my bag and then strap my tripod on. So if you just give me like 2 seconds and then you can chase me. Like it's
Right,
not worth it.
exactly.
It's not worth it. And I'm the same way. I'll use like the floor or a railing or like anything else to like prop up my camera if I need a steady shot, you know? So I'm the same way with you there. Like the one time I brought like a tripod was this weekend and I was like, this is stupid. Never again.
Right? Yeah, it makes you never want to
Never
bring it
again.
again.
Never again. It
Never
has a
again.
place.
Just gotta be
Yeah,
innovative.
yeah, for sure. You gotta have more fun with it. Have you ever actually like gotten permission to explore any spots?
I gotta think. I can think off of the top of my head that I've gotten permission to shoot active churches. Off the top of my head, they're not abandoned, but I honestly, oh, well, actually, yes, I have technically. There's my friend Matt actually works at I'm sure you've heard of it, Crescent
Oh
Sanatorium
yeah.
in prison. It's in Western Pennsylvania, and it's a former prison and state hospital, and they run tours, and I that's like the go-to place for me. Like my friend works there, so if I ever want something to do on a weekend, I'll join him with going up there and exploring and like taking pictures and just getting into some type of havoc up there. So that's like one of my favorite places to do legally.
Sure.
Um, but I actually do have a thing for churches, active or abandoned, and it's like my favorite type of architecture to shoot. And yeah,
Yeah, especially on like
I
the
enjoy
East
that.
Coast or like up in the Northeast, the architecture of the churches is vastly different than it is on the West Coast. Just think that the eastern half of the country has like cooler architecture and like obviously older architecture just because like it's older. But yeah, I
Yeah.
feel the same way. You know, I love churches. I love like asylums, hospitals, bigger things like that. Like this past weekend we were doing a bunch of houses and I don't really do houses because like one, you never really know if they're abandoned because like somebody could,
Very
especially the
true.
part of the country we were in, like somebody could very well live in some of these places. It was just like the disgruntled part of the country, I would say, you know, it's just
Yeah.
like kind of sketchy. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
for sure.
I love that everybody has their like favorite type of thing to explore. Can you tell me your most creative entrance into a building?
Oh man, this is actually kind of recent. I do have two stories about this. Actually, three.
All right.
So my most like creative hard entrance was back in high school. Actually, this is actually a whole story. Speaking of my mom earlier, I remember I got together this big group of people from high school. Like it was probably like 10 of us. We were young, we were stupid. We had no idea any of these rules or anything. We dressed in all black. We had eye black on. We looked like we were about to play football or something. It was ridiculous. And we parked the car, I swear to you, like 7 miles
Oh
away,
no.
and hiked through like I thought I was going to war. It was like we were going through the trenches. I think I was covered up to my waist in mud. We were hiking up these huge hills. It was like a whole production, and it was like late at night. It was like nine o'clock. I think the whole expedition was anywhere between like 9 o'clock to like 3 a.m. We were going to this asylum, and there was 10 of us. We were
Dang, that's
rowdy. I don't know
wild.
how we didn't get caught. I don't know how we didn't get caught. It was like active security. It was actually pretty like they watched it pretty well. And we just I climbed up to like a 2-story window via a person and a railing. So I was like on my friend's shoulders to get up to this railing, standing on it and getting dragged in by another friend through the window. And then we like tunneled through all the buildings, and I just remember like telling my mom like I'm going to go out to this state hospital tonight to explore it with like all my friends. And she was like, as like supportive as she is and was about all that, she was just like, she knew the place and was like, no, you're not. Nope. And I was like, but like, you know, like being 17 years old, you're like, mom, please.
Don't embarrass
She's
me
like,
in front of my
no.
friends.
Right? I was like dead set on doing this, and she's like, nope. And I just remember I'm like, all right, we're going to go see the Spider-Man movie instead. I think that's a good idea. And we ended up going to the state hospital, obviously. And I remember my mom used to be like, you know, those memes where they say, back in the day when you get a phone call from your parents and you'd be like 3 towns over and nowhere even near. It was like that. Like I was in the middle of this asylum. We were up in like an attic area, and my phone goes off, and my mom's like, let me see the Spider-Man movie. I was like, oh my gosh. So my friend took his phone out and put like a picture of Spider-Man on it. Yeah, and it was so dark in the asylum that like when I took the picture of his phone, it almost gave the illusion that there was a movie screen in the background, but it was really his phone screen. So I'm happy we didn't get caught that night, because a little 12th grade me would have been in deep trouble for sure.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble now when she hears this podcast and figures out the truth.
Oh, she knows everything nowadays. Yeah, she knows everything.
God.
She wants to join in on stuff, and I get to the point where there's certain places that like are super high risk, and I'll just text her beforehand. I'm like, I'm in this state, I'm in this location. If you get a call, I'm like, I'm in jail. Like I have certain people's, like certain places I go to or have gone to, I will write people's phone numbers on my hand to call, like because I don't have anybody's numbers memorized. Sure. I have like a couple friends' phone numbers, my mom, my boyfriend, like a bunch of stuff. So
no,
like,
no,
oh man,
I've never been like arrested, knock on wood, but like, do they let you go through your phone to get a contact? Because nobody knows anyone's number. Like nobody knows.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
now in this day and age.
Somebody that's been arrested in a bando incident, please comment somewhere and let me know if you get access to your phone to make a phone call, or if you just are screwed.
I think you got that one phone call for sure when you get like hauled in. I would hope, honestly. Sure. But like, knock on wood, I've never been arrested. I have crazy stories about getting caught, but luckily for me, never arrested. I hope it stays that way.
For sure, yeah, same. I've definitely been caught a couple times, but same here. Like, hopefully it doesn't go any further than getting yelled at by a property owner or security guard.
Yeah, agreed. I actually had a crazy almost getting caught story in Ohio, actually about a month ago with my friend Matt. And I've posted a little bit about it in like a caption or something here and there on Snapchat. I was talking about it, and everybody gets a kick out of this. So we were going to this abandoned mall, and we go in through the back, and we see somebody inside, and of course, me being like not logical at all was like, that's probably another explorer. Why would I ever think it was like security or somebody that was like working the mall? Like it was fully abandoned, but I think they were like just taking everything out of it or doing some type of indoor work. So it did turn out to be a worker, and we thought it was a perfect idea to just, we're already in, we're going to keep running around, we're going to take our shots, and then we're going to be out. So as we're taking our shots, we hear these sirens, and like there's been times I've been in abandoned places where I'll hear sirens outside. It's nothing. It's just like the world around you. And that's what I brushed it off to be. And then we hear the sirens cut off. And I'm still in a very calm manner here. And I'm like, all right. And I look at Matt and we're like, that's weird, but I think we're fine. So we start navigating near where the food court of the mall is, which is like one of the main things I wanted to see at this spot. I have my camera literally lifted up in the air to take the shot. I didn't get the chance to click the button before Matt goes, "Come over here, get over here now." I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I run back to where he is. He tells me that the guy who was working there made eye contact with him. And at that point, we're running. Like, we are running. And as soon as we go to like where we need to go to get out, the guy is like right around the
Oh my
corner.
God.
So Matt thought it was a perfect idea to go to the other end of the mall and try and find an exit. We are not finding an exit. So, in like malls where you walk in and they have like those doors that just open up automatically, and then there's like a little glass lobby and then more glass doors that open up.
Yeah.
So we were pushing on like the exit to the like glass doors, and Matt was in such a panic mode that as he turned around, he sprinted like full force into the glass door. Luckily, nothing shattered and he was fine, but like we laugh about it because I joke with him. I'm like, Matt, you're like a bird hitting a window at that point. Like, it was just crazy. And I just look at him. I'm like, get it together.
Oh my God.
And so we just end up running out the way we came in, past the guy. I was running so fast. I didn't look back. Like, I didn't even care to know. Like, I had no idea if the guy was chasing after us or what, but we ran all the way back to the car. And we were like, all right, let's drive around the front of the mall, see like if there were cops out there, like what's up with this? Like maybe the guy called. And the cops were surrounded the front of the building. And we're like, oh my God, we had New York plates.
Yo.
This was Ohio. And so we drive past the front, and I'm sure the guy in the mall gave a description of what we looked like. He saw us. And the cop pulls out right behind us as we drive past. And I'm just like, Matt, keep going, keep going. And luckily the cop turned his lights on and went right back to the mall.
Wow.
And we got away. I was so nervous. It was just a sequence of events for sure.
Wow. Yeah. The getaway stories are some of my favorites because like it's rare that we, have them. And so getting to hear those just gets me all like hyped up to like go explore some more and like maybe almost get I don't know.
I know. That's how I felt. I felt that way too. Matt, not so much. He's like, I'm taking a little bit of a small break from some riskier spots. I think he has a little bit of a PTSD for now from the mall scenario, but it was wild. That's probably one of my crazier getting almost caught stories, but I have one from the Poconos actually, at one of the lovers resorts. It's like a notorious spot where people just stay away from. I don't think I've seen somebody explore this spot for like a couple years. Like, it's never posted. Maybe like 2 or 3 years, I'd say. It's rarely posted. It's rarely talked about, because there's this guy who owns it, and I think he has trail cameras or something, but he like scares off trespassers with like a huge rifle. And he like carries it around with him, and everybody's so scared of getting shot by this guy. And I just remember like hiding from him years and years and years ago, like through the woods, and like I escaped. Like, he knew we were there because we were stupid and we parked our car up in the front, and he just knew that people were on his property, and he had his gun with him, and we just like went right out the back and like didn't look back. And I haven't been back since, and I'm dying to go back. I would love to go back, and I'm just nervous because Pennsylvania is like a stand your ground state, and I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
guess
not
it's
worth it.
like it's not worth it, but it's just like one of those places that just is top of the list. It's so stupid. It's such a dinky little spot, but I'm like I just really want to go. There's like this one little retro bar, and I would just go just to like see this retro
Yeah,
bar setup, and that's it. Like I just want to cross it off my list, but I know the second I step back foot on that property, I'm going to just have these thoughts of this guy with the gun, and I'm just going to be so
oh my
nervous. I'm
god.
so nervous.
Speaking of, you said that your friend was like, "I'm gonna take a break from the higher risk stuff." Has anything ever made you want to like stop exploring or take a break?
Yeah, I actually have been like not going out currently as much as I usually do. There's like certain spots that will just get me into a rut, or um like instances like the mall. Like I was fine with the mall. Like it kind of made me want to do things more, but there's certain stuff that I'll try. Like there's like a hospital that I've been wanting to try, that I got an invite, or rather just made plans with a couple friends to go to recently, and I got called into work instead of going out that day on a
Mm,
Tuesday. And I think it just, I mean, my friends were successful in doing it, but like there's just certain spots that kind of make me think twice. Like if I have a plan for them, or if I successfully do it, or even if I just like chicken out, which is okay
yeah,
sometimes. I have to do it because I just think I don't want to financially get myself in a rut. Like power plants will freak me out.
sure.
Like after a power plant, I'll get really nervous, or like leading up to a power plant plan, I'll get really nervous cuz I just think of the difference between like a house, or like a resort. I'm like, that's a property owner. But if you think on a larger scale of like a power plant, that's like a
Oh yeah,
federal like charge, and actually can be seen as like a terroristic charge, which I didn't know about up until like this year. So I get really nervous with that. Like state hospitals, schools, those are the ones that kind of, once I hit them, or if I like plan on hitting them, I get really, really nervous about, and kind of feel like I need to cool it for a little bit. Because I mean, I feel like I'm the cat that has like a certain amount of lives, and using them up the riskier spots I go
yeah.
to. There's actually a spot I went to. I tried it. It was a place I've had since it a bit like since it was abandoned. Like since it was a kid, I've always wanted to even like look at this. Like even before I even knew what exploring was, I just wanted to see it for myself, see it with my own eyes, and that's the famous Six Flags in New
Oh
Orleans.
yeah,
Yeah, and I went down there partially with the intention of hitting it, and partially with just I want to have a fun vacation down there. I want to see what it's all
yeah.
about. So I just remember like being so ill prepared to hit it, and just like not really knowing what's going on, and just knowing that like so many people I know have got caught
Mm-hmm.
there. I've had a group of friends got guns pulled on them there, and then you think of the wildlife, like
Oh
the
yeah,
alligators, the boars, and stuff like that. And I just it was such a spot that like made my heart, like it's like that resort that I was telling you about, the bar. Like that's on the same scale as Six Flags. It's like the spot that like just really gets me excited.
mm,
It gets me like I would do anything to like be able to do this successfully. And it I just went down there and I didn't hit it because I felt like the odds were just so against
yeah,
me, and I didn't want to miss a flight home because I was in New Orleans
yeah.
jail. It just but that's definitely something I've always wanted to see. But for right now, I don't know when or if I'll ever get to it. I would love to, but there's just certain spots and like certain things that just make me think twice. I mean, it's fun. It's fun doing this as a hobby. It's fun seeing the unknown and spots you really want to see. But I often lately, especially, have been thinking to myself, I'm like, is it worth the legal repercussions, or is it worth the financial, especially financial repercussions, and how much trouble you can get into? Like, I think the Six Flags I read online, like it was a couple grand of a fine, plus I think jail time if they really wanted to throw the book at you for that.
Yeah, it's pretty
So
crazy
I was
spot.
like, not worth it. Yeah, I was like, it's not worth like all the money that I'd have to shell out to the money that I don't have to want to
Sure.
put towards a fine. I mean, hell, I hate even getting a $15
For
parking
sure.
ticket, let alone like a 10 grand
Yeah.
fine for breaking and entering.
Yeah, no, exactly. I totally agree with that. You know, some places are just fantasy spots, really, because like that's all we can do is just fantasize about maybe one day seeing them, and you know, it's not always going to be worth it to go. Can you share your scariest exploration?
Hmm. I think I think it has to be that story with the owner with the
Yeah.
gun. The area I was at was kind of like just kind of like dingy and like middle of the woods and kind of scary. And it was a place that I really, I mean, it was time and a place in my life where I really felt that I had no idea what I was doing. I was going with people who like didn't know what they were doing. I was the leader of the expedition because it was before I really was on Instagram, and like met all the connections and the friends that I've met through Instagram and that do know what they're doing. And we just went in there blind, and we were in a cabin when and we were just about to walk out of the cabin into the main buildings, and we weren't too loud, but we were like loud enough where it was kind of scary. And at he was like right out front of the cabin we were walking out, and luckily he didn't see
Wow.
us, and we just walked right back into the cabin, and we saw the gun at his side. And I was just like, I had never like even heard of, or even like nowadays we hear of crazy
Sure.
stories about cops chasing you, or like all of these insane stories of property owners and stuff like that. But at the time I had no idea like the trouble and like I could get into. It was different. It was a different feeling than I've ever gotten when it comes to like um getting caught by like
Oh yeah.
security or the cops, cuz you think, okay, like you're going to cuff me, like take me to
Yeah.
jail, like that's the worst that can happen, like deal with all of that type of stuff. But like the gun thing, I was like, wow, like if this guy, it was PA, so if this guy really felt like he was defending himself, he, I mean,
Yeah,
he
he
could
could.
have.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah.
And
That's crazy.
it was crazy.
Um
Um,
so switch over to like funny urbex stories. Like do you have any like funny memories that you can recall?
yeah, actually, it's a funny and painful
Okay.
memory. Um, I was exploring this church in upstate New York with my friend Faded Afterlife. His name's Colin, and uh, it was the smallest fence in the world that you had to get over to get into this church. So I'm 5 foot tall, so even like for like a taller person than 5 foot, it's an easy swing of the legs over and you're
Mm.
in. But this fence was different than a lot of fences. It was pointed, like very, very pointed at the top. And I just remember I like swung my leg over, and the pointy part went a place where the pointy
Oh
part
no.
should not have gone.
Oh.
And we're trying to be so quick with it, trying to just hop this fence and go right into the door of the church. And I'm sitting there like fence in between my legs, just like in pain, like not moving. And Colin's like, "What are you doing? Like, hurry up!" And I just like explored the entire and like the church at the time. It was probably one of the most beautiful churches I had seen at that at that time in my life, abandoned wise. And I think as soon as I walked through the door, it was just like I was mesmerized by it
Crazy.
and just was like didn't even think about the pain. And then at the end of it, I just like the whole rest of the day I was just like, oh my god, I literally felt like violated by a fence. Like it was like the most foul, ridiculous thing
Oh my
ever. It
god.
just was awful. And then later that day, I'm almost sure that like we scoped out this house and Colin looked in the window and I'm pretty sure he saw, like, you know how people joke like, "Oh, what if you look in an abandoned house or you walk in on a family eating dinner?"
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he saw like a person in the house with their like kitchen light on and we're just like, "Go, go, go." I'm like, oh man, like that's also a big fear of mine, walking into somebody's house. That's why I always like to know of a house or somebody that has done a house before I go to it. I actually have a couple up my way that I've been wanting to scope out for a while. I have them all pinned up and I'm like, I do not want to be the first one to just walk in here.
Nah.
Like I'm like that then I'll just end up walking in on the family of 5 eating their dinner. Like I just don't know. It's so crazy to tell.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's nuts. Like you really never know. I've heard many a story on this podcast about people just like walking in on somebody like at their house. You know, that's why I hate doing houses because like you never know. Like somebody could live there
Yeah.
for sure. If you could live in one of the places you've explored for an entire week, which place would it be?
Hmm. I would have to go with the giant mansion. I feel safe enough to name drop it. Everybody's heard of it. It's Linwood Hall,
Okay.
the 110 room
Yeah,
mansion that has the Titanic ties. I just think there's so many rooms in there that like I wouldn't get
for
bored.
sure.
I would just like be looking at the beautiful architecture, the
Mm-hmm.
paintings, or whatever the heck, and just like I don't think I'd get sick of it.
Yeah.
And back in the day, they used to have little guard dogs. So, I mean, years and years ago, I mean, I didn't do it years and years ago, but it would be awesome to just like cuddle up with a dog for a
For
week.
sure.
That would be fun.
Oh my god, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that place I've the only stories I've heard about that place is that the dogs are there. I don't know if they're still there, but that's definitely the most of the stories I've heard were always about those dogs.
The dogs, yeah.
What do you hope for the future of urban exploring?
Um, Honestly, I hope that everybody can just be nice to each other and not dramatic. And I honestly do think that this hobby brings out the craziest people. I
For sure.
mean, I am a crazy person. You have to
You
be
have to be
some
a little
type of
crazy.
crazy to do it. Yeah. But I just hope that like everybody who's like struggling with something that's like doing this hobby can like get through it, and that we can all stop like competing and like hating each
Hmm.
other for like stupid stuff. Like I people have told me like not to say this out loud because it just sounds silly, but I honestly do not have any problems really with anybody, and I kind of feel like I'm like the I don't even know how to say it. Just like one of the few people I know that like doesn't have beef, and
For sure.
like I have friends of mine that hate the other friends, and like I just and I wouldn't even say I'm in the middle. Like I just try and avoid any type of
Hmm.
drama. Like life outside of Instagram and your hobby is hard enough.
Yeah.
So I don't want to add unnecessary drama or like hatred or bad energy into a hobby that I love and I enjoy and that brings me joy. I mean, that kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it when you're like beefing or you're like competing or hating on another person who's just trying to do the same exact thing that you're doing. So
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. I literally got asked the other day, like, who do you not like in the hobby? And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that question. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not trying to be a point of drama. Like, this podcast is, I try to be friendly with everybody unless somebody has a problem or they're doing something wrong, like if you're doing something wrong in the, I want to call it a sport because I feel like it's a little bit, it takes a little bit of athleticism to do urban exploring, but like, I feel like if you're causing issues with other people, like for example, there are a few people in the hobby that I have heard really bad things about, like as far as like, sexually assaulting people in abandoned buildings, which is like the fucking craziest thing I've ever even like considered to happen. But like if you're doing that kind of shit, like you should be kicked out, you should be blacklisted, like you should have repercussions. But other than like that kind of stuff, like I think the beef and like canceling people, I think it's ridiculous. And I really don't want any part of it. And the fact that it sometimes comes to me because I have this podcast, like I'm grateful people feel like they can come to me, but also like I don't want to know really. Like I just want to be Switzerland over here, like like just on in the middle of everything, but not like a part of the issues.
Definitely. And that's like I actually went to school and I was a therapist for a little bit. Like I worked in the mental health field for a decent amount of time, and I'm like, I'm done with it. Like I'm done with it. I don't want just my friends coming to me and like talking about my other friends and stuff like that. Like I love everybody in this hobby. Like there's been bumps in the road with like certain people, but I honestly can say that I do like or would like to be civil with everybody. And I don't know if that makes me like crazy, but there was this one person that I had an issue with, that a couple people in the hobby knew I had an issue with, but he thinks I'm just like this terrible person and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I couldn't care less, dude. I'm like, I've asked him. I haven't asked him directly. I'm friends with one of his friends. Like we're all. I feel like this hobby is just like all mutual friends that like hate each other or something. So like I'm friends with one of his buddies, and I was like, hey, listen, like you can talk to him, tell him like no hard feelings. Like we can talk about it. Like be adults. And he just didn't want anything to do with it. So I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you can't
win them all.
Like can't win them all, you try your best. And I pride myself on just having my own integrity and knowing who I am as a person, and I like who I am as a person, and what I don't really bring much to the hobby. I'm just a big believer in just being nice to everybody, and even if somebody like hurt me or whatever, I mean, there's nothing like talking it out or like being civil can't do. I'm not one to hold grudges or beef or be all upset over some petty stuff, and especially not be all upset over a hobby.
Yeah, for sure. Like most of us aren't getting paid to do this. Like I hope people realize like we don't have really anything to lose. So like why have all this drama, this unnecessary drama? It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
Never used to be this way either.
That's true.
Never used to, or either it never used to be this way, or I was just so like out of the loop back in the day that, I mean, I was taking pictures of abandoned places. I think I remember like up in the Poconos with I think an iPod Touch, I'm like, that's my era
like
of
2
time.
megapixels. Fuck yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my God. The good old days. And then the last question I have for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started all of this?
Oh man, there's so much. Like how to be smart about going to places, like not parking your car, not yelling, not like causing a ruckus on places that you could easily get like pretty heavy fines or arrested for. Like another thing is just I still don't know how to use a camera, but I wish I had better angles or knew how to even take a good picture back in the day, because looking at places that I've been to over the years that aren't there anymore, like all I have to remember them are the pictures that I have, and that state hospital that I had the mom Spider-Man story at. I just have like a couple group pictures or like blurry tunnel pictures, and I mean, we went late at night, so it's not like I could get the best shots of anything anyway, but I just have a couple group pictures and some funny videos of us goofing around. But I wish I, like, my memory's so bad, like, I don't even, it was such a chaotic time with 10 of us in the building that I was more focused on the crazy things my friends were saying or laughing about than I was on the atmosphere around me. So I guess I would go back in time and kind of want to revisit those places, or at least get some better footage so I can at least relive the memory as time went on.
Absolutely. So thank you for coming on the podcast. If people want to keep following your journey, where can they find you online?
Probably Instagram is the best bet. I don't have like Twitter or anything like that. I don't really use Facebook. So Instagram is the best bet for me, which is just the Morgannll page that I've had since middle school.
All right, y'all. That was my episode with Morgan. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. If you did, please leave a rating and feedback on the podcast. It helps me out. It helps us find a bigger audience of listeners just like you. I can't thank you enough for listening to No Tracers. If you want to come on the show, please hit me up at no.tracers on Instagram, or you can even email me at contact@notracers.com and we'll get you on the show. Would love to hear from many different types of people. Next week's episode is going to be a crazy one. I hope you tune into it. Lastly, I just want to thank Liquid Death for supplying this podcast with water. I appreciate it. If you guys want to try Liquid Death, get a case of water, get some koozies, use code just the letter K for 10% off your order. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you next time. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go explore something, and remember, leave no trace.